I'm delighted to be here with Annie McCullum, one of our new trustees. She's new as a trustee, but she's been an independent committee member on the People Committee for about a year and a half now. So she knows us pretty well, but recently became both chair of the People Committee and a trustee. Annie, delighted to be working with you. We've got a few questions for you if you're ready to go.
I think so, Gary. Yeah, go for it.
Don't be worried. There'll be easy questions, honestly. First, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your history, and particularly what your connection with Parkinson's is?
Okay. So a little bit about me. I was born in a flat over Wanstead Tube Station on the day I understand Oxford won the boat race that day. So I've always supported Oxford in the boat race ever since. Grew up in London, Surrey, Hampshire, France, and more recently moved back to, well, more recently, 30 something years ago, moved back to Hampshire and now live in a troublesome old house here. I have a husband and 3 children. And a little bit about my career. So my career has really indulged my love of 3 things. One is everything to do with people I find incredibly fascinating. I'm very curious about organizations. So if I'm driving past a hotel or any kind of building, I'm always keen to know what's going on behind the scenes in these sorts of places. So curious about organizations and how they work. And then the third thing I love is anything to do with different cultures. So that might be within a country or across different countries. And so I've brought all of those together in a career really as an HR director in both national and international settings, sometimes specialized and sometimes doing generalist work with people. That's me.
Now, that sounds brilliant, but now tell us the connection with Parkinson's then.
Yeah, absolutely. So the connection with Parkinson's is through my dad. So my dad developed Parkinson's at a reasonably young age when I was pretty young. And it really was only visible initially through a slight tremor that he had that we would notice if he was bringing us something to eat or to drink at the table, for example. And we just thought that was part of being our dad. We didn't know, me and my 2 brothers, anything at all about Parkinson's. And at that stage, I'm not even sure that he knew that he had Parkinson's. And he lived with Parkinson's for many years, and he did it really successfully on the face of it. He held down an incredibly demanding career. He kept ever so fit. He loved running, loved football. And over time, I guess, as I look back now, I think that he not only tried to ignore the symptoms that were developing as much as he humanly could, but I think he also tried to protect us, his family, from what he was experiencing too. And as he got older, and particularly when he retired, that was really when his symptoms began to multiply. And even then, as I look back, I really didn't fully understand what was happening and what he was facing. It was very rarely discussed in the household home at all, really. It was almost a taboo subject. And I guess this has really inspired me as I've learnt more and more about Parkinson's. When I decided to step away from full-time work and lead a more diverse and balanced life, one of the things I really wanted to do was to join an organisation where I could learn more about Parkinson's and perhaps make up for the fact that I hadn't really been as helpful to him as I wish I had. And coincidentally, I spotted an advert for an independent member of the People Committee of Parkinson's UK. And because I'd really spent so many years working with people, being trained in how to lead people, how to support them, how to develop them, it was just like a dream come true. I just thought, oh, well, this is meant to be. So I applied and was really delighted to be accepted. And since I've been working with Parkinson's UK and getting to know, really quite a few people with Parkinson's, I have learned so much. And, I'd like to think maybe sometime in the future, I'll have another conversation with my dad. He's sadly passed away now, but you just never know, Gary. I might just get to sit down with him and have a chat about how it really was and, how he's influenced me since to go and do several things, including this.
And it's a really powerful story. And I have to say, you've been a real asset as well to the People Committee. So I'm sure your dad would be very proud of that. So can you just maybe give us your perspective on what success as a trustee means to you? If 3 or 4 years down the line, what would you say you would see as being a success?
So I guess being a success as a trustee is tied up with the success of all of us, everybody involved in, the Parkinson's community and all those that really pile in and support making progress in a number of ways. So success for me is as we all pull together, we get the things that we're working so hard towards. So whether that's accelerating breakthroughs in research, whether it's getting Parkinson's better understood, whether it's providing the best possible support to people day to day with Parkinson's, these are the things that we know we're going to be successful when we can see really visible progress in these areas. So that's at a community-wide perspective, and that's how I will also see my success. But personally, I guess it's finding that I can really contribute to some of the thinking and the development of ideas, solutions, different ways of working, different ways of bringing people together and working as a team to get the best outcomes that we can for people with Parkinson's. If I can feel at the end of the day that I've made a difference in that area alongside all my colleagues and trustees and members of the community, then I will personally also feel very happy.
And what's your view on some of the sort of key focus for the People Committee? Where do you start?
So for the People Committee, I think the number one guiding force for us is to continue to keep people with Parkinson's front and centre in our considerations in everything that we do, that should be present all the time and influence our conversations and what we, decide, approve, agree on. So that's the number one area for me. I think the second one is looking more widely. I would love us to be seen as champions of people more generally. So I think we have to remember that this whole desire that we share to move forward is based on the efforts of an enormous number of people, whether it's staff, whether it's volunteers, the local groups, phenomenally important, scientists and research, medical professionals, being the champion for all of that community of people that are involved in working towards something that can have high impact and make a difference. That is something that I think is key for us, not to get lost too much in the governance or the rules or the process or that kind of stuff. It's important and it has its place, but really and truly, we want to be a champion for people. And I think the third thing, Gary, that's important for us is to be seen as critical and supportive friends to the executive leadership team, to the CEO, so that we are a source of expertise, but also in a way we're a source of challenge and support for them, so that they can rely on us to be driven to add value to the fantastic work that they do.
Brilliant. Thank you, Annie. I mean, just one quick question. I know you've been going out and about, and you've met quite a few people in the community. Do you want to just share, who you've been seeing and a little bit more about what you found?
Oh, it's very fresh in my mind, the Christmas dinner with the Farnborough group last night. So there is so much fun to be had with the local groups, and my local one, as I just mentioned, is Farnborough. They have me up to all kinds of things. So I can be baking cakes one minute, or I can be semi-dressed as an elf the next, rattling a tin somewhere near a shopping centre. But yesterday we had the Christmas dinner in a church hall, and it was pouring with rain and very cold, but it was the warmest feeling in the world to get into this church hall. We'd laid out all the tables and chairs, and we'd got the room looking very Christmassy. And it's been a tough year, hasn't it? And of course, with COVID, there'd be all sorts of concerns about that too. And although numbers were understandably a bit lower than usual, what was phenomenal was that there were about 36 of us together in this hall, having the most lovely time, swapping stories of our lives, chatting away a bit about Parkinson's, but that didn't dominate the conversation at all. And you can't help but be completely inspired at the warmth and the joy that people get from coming together face to face, as we did last night, by the sheer dedication of the volunteers involved that were hoiking the tables around and getting them set and ready, laying out the flowers and the cutlery. It was just really inspiring. And then the people with Parkinson's, their carers, their friends, their supporters who came along and contributed to a beautiful evening. So it's a very happy place to be, I have to say, any involvement with my local group. And the fact that the president of the local group was dressed up as Father Christmas for the whole evening only added to it.
That happens all the way through the year. You just happen to. But I've got some questions for you, just quick questions. So I've got 5 questions. I'll give you two words, and you tell me the word that you relate to most. Okay.
Okay.
So, question 1: athletics and theatre.
Theatre.
1960s and 1930s.
1960s.
Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth I.
Queen Victoria.
Painting and poetry.
Poetry.
Dogs and cats.
Dogs every time.
Right, well, I'll put that into my spreadsheet, see what that tells me. I'll put that back to the People Committee. So my second question for you is, you've got a dinner party this weekend, and you're allowed to invite 2 people, and they can be any people. They can be people who are no longer with us, people who are famous, people who are infamous. Who would you invite and why?
Well, I have a consistent answer for this one. So my choices would be, number 1 would be Jurgen Klopp, who is, I can appreciate, a slightly controversial choice. He is
Not for me, isn't it?
No, well, I know that. He is the manager of Liverpool Football Club. And I've chosen him because I love to chat about football, and particularly Liverpool. And I have chosen him also because I absolutely love his enthusiasm, and the fact that he's put this incredibly diverse team together, and they are having tremendous success, which makes them a lot of fun to watch. So that would be my number 1 guest. And the second guest would be Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela, I believe, would have a whole fund of amazing stories to tell. And I believe he would tell them very expertly with lots of laughter and a big twinkle. But also he's just a complete inspiration because he has managed to change whole countries, whole ways people think about themselves and each other. And he did it with such skill and dedication and commitment. You couldn't help but be inspired. Quite what the combination of Jurgen Klopp and Nelson Mandela would be, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it'd be fun to put them together.
Well, Nelson Mandela was involved in the Rugby World Cup final, wasn't he? So maybe there's a sporting connection, if nothing else. I'm sure they'd be in company. So I'm going to ask you one last question. Have you got any hidden talents or hidden secrets of something you've done that people don't really know about? And I'm sure the answer is yes.
Yes, yes.
What is it?
I've got one thing that is slightly unlikely, but the truth is that I was once a DJ on London's Capital Radio.
Very good. How long was that for?
15 minutes.
Did you say pop pickers?
That was Alan Freeman, I think, wasn't it? How
Was,
many years ago? I remember him and his pop pickers. No, I wrote in to Capital Radio when I was 15 years old and asked if I could be a DJ for them for 15 minutes on a program that was called Hullabaloo. And luckily for me, they said, yes, I could be. And so I took them.
Does the tape still exist?
I jolly well hope not.
There you go.
I made a bad mistake at the end of it and got their address wrong. So instead of re-recording the whole thing, they made me admit on air that I had just made a mistake in their address and redo it. So I was mortified.
Sounds like a real fun afternoon though to do that. I'd love to do something like that. It's been a pleasure to interview. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you and good luck for your role as both chair of the People Committee and as a trustee. It's going to be great to work with you, and I know you're going to make a huge difference as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Gary. That was fun.